Happy Monday. Man, I'm honored you're playing Kenny Chesney.
Why he was here this past weekend, and it's typically your day for choice of music, so we'll keep it rolling with some Kenny Chesney and his concert this week. I know of quite a few people that went and had a blast.
Oh wow. I'll remember a time that was God had to be 10 or 15 years ago. He came to town and had a contest. And Angelique's a big fan. When she got all the agents rallying behind to vote for her, and we won. So we got backstage passes and personal photo tours, and we sat at the sandbar, and it was a really, really cool experience.
Very cool.
He's a good performer. And we're here now, brother. Cool. Well, I kind of wrote something up yesterday I want to talk about today, and you got some issues you want to talk about. So let me talk about my issues real fast, because I think it's important that we play real estate. My dad sent me an email over the week and said, "Is real estate a real job?" And it made me think. Sitting by the pool yesterday, as you can see by my color, and I said, "Real estate is a job if you treat it like one." And then I wrote down, what should you do this week? Plan your week, work your plan. And I think a lot of times we don't set out with those intentions to plan our week and work our plan. So I wanted to give you a couple minutes worth of ideas on things you could do to plan your week and work your plan. Number one, and I was honored. Last week was a big week for me because I got to do the Sarasota Top Agent Luncheon, which was super, super cool. And I got to do the Tampa Luncheon, which was super, super cool. And I got to do the St. Pete Luncheon, which was super, super cool. And it was really cool being with the top agents and finding out that they are working their plan and planning their work, and they are using tools, and they are using Moxie, and they are doing stuff like that. And that's a bigger job for an experienced agent to take on that responsibility and learn new things, right? So if you're new or if you're experienced, these tools help. So the first thing I wrote down is past clients. By far, for the top agents in the company, their past clients are their key to their success. Right. So what do we need to do? What tools do we have to stay in touch with our past clients? And are you using them the way you should? And if not, where are the resources to help you learn how to do that? And if you don't have past clients, hit pause because you don't have them yet, but you will.
Well, I think there's an integration there with the agents. They basically find a way to turn their past clients into their sphere. So they integrate them into their sphere, whether it's socially, whether it's through Moxie, whether it's through follow-ups, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever those follow-ups are, they integrate them into their sphere. So they have a plan to make sure that they touch base and follow up with them. So if
Yeah.
you don't have past clients, use your sphere and treat your sphere like past clients. If they own a home, treat that person like they bought the home from you, or they're the most valuable person to you because they own a home and they're your sphere. So you need to provide value to them. So it's just that key integration of past clients into your sphere, or you don't have those, just use your sphere.
So if you don't have a plan for this week to turn your past clients into sphere or your sphere into past clients and talk to them, make that an issue this week that you want to engage with them in some way, shape, or form. Yes, when you have a test coming up, you got to plan to study. We have a test coming up. We got to have a very slow real estate market this year compared to prior years, just because of the lockdown effect and the fact that there's no new inventory coming up, and interest rates make it harder for people to qualify. So, but your population is going to go down, and I want your business to go up. So, number one is past clients, sphere of influence. Have a plan this week to reach out to a number of them. Pick a number. 5 a day, 10 a day would be a great start. And then I wrote down new business, right? We should be reaching out for new business all the time. I wrote down for sale by owners, open houses, expired listings, and absentee owners, right? Could you plan to do some of those this week? Right? Maybe FSBOs are not your thing, so you're going to do open houses. We're doing a lot of open houses I see these days, and we're getting traction at those open houses, and we're getting customers that are going into a funnel, and you're staying in touch with them, and it's working.
We had just on a property that I own, I had two open houses. Two separate agents did it Saturday and Sunday. Saturday there was like 4 groups that came through. One group had an agent, and then the other ones did not. One was a nosy neighbor, the other 2 did not. At least one of them has committed to working with our agent on that one day. The next day there was only one group that came through. They did not have an agent, and they also committed to working with the agent. Why? because they held the open house and they asked the question, are you working with an agent? And would you like to work with me? And they started treating it like a business and asking those questions. So we had, just from a simple thing like that, not a ton of traffic, but they made sure they utilized it and asked that question. Would you like to work with me? Would you like me to be your agent? Let me show you how I run my business and how I can be of value to you.
Yeah. And just now those two agents have two new customers in their pipeline.
Yes.
And this is getting exciting because as we go closer to July, when the force changes are going to come, your buyer broker agreement is going to be an asset, just like a listing agreement. So you start stacking these things up, you're going to have your whiteboard in your office or whatever you have up there. You track all your listings. You can track all your buyers too, because they're going to be under contract with you. Good stuff. So FSBOs, open houses, expired listings, absentee owners, mix that into your week. Plan your week to get some new business. And then I wrote down social, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Create posts and engage with those posts. You know, my daughter Jessica has really turned her Instagram into a business making tool for her. All of her past clients are on Instagram. They follow her, they track her, they send her business through that. And it's a thing, but she plans out her week. She knows her posts and when they're going to go, and she does them all, and she has them scheduled, and it's an organized plan. So is real estate a real job? It is if you treat it like one. And then I wrote down, just for fun, ask for reviews. You got real satisfied reviews that now is going to link with
Zillow.
And your Google My Business page, which means you got to set up your Zillow and you got to set up your Google My Business page. And then you got to set up your thing. And Jimmy showed us how to do last week. And Angela will send the recap out this morning. And then I wrote down, go ahead.
Well, that's a reason just to reach out to past clients right there. So if you're going to make the number one thing for, if you have past clients, reach out to them first, start having that communication. And that right there is your easy way to do it. Link your Real Satisfied to Zillow, send them a link to already do that. They could do it seamlessly and easily. And then I just think that that's probably the one thing that you could do this week with all of your reviews. If they're not on Zillow or on Google My Business, you can go through and have a reason to reach out, because a lot of you say, well, I don't know what to say. Well, real easy. There's a quick one for you.
I had a business coach in my very beginning years named Diane Dobbin, and she would teach us to do this. And the agents always come back with well, I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to beg for business from my clients, blah, 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 blah. And she gave me this story, and I think it's relevant. She said, if you're a doctor, Chris, and you like your doctor, if your doctor decided to open a new practice in Riverview and you were seeing the doctor in Tampa, and if your doctor called you and said, hey, Chris, I'm opening a new practice in Riverview, do you know any patients that would like to maybe be interested in my Riverview branch? Would you be offended that the doctor asked you for that information? Or would you be honored that they honored your opinion?
I'd be honored. I'd be happy to refer them business because it was a good experience.
Right. So we have this thing in our drunk monkey head that says, oh, I don't want to pester my friends and ask them for business or ask them for reviews, but they're honored to help you if you just ask. So that's a big, good story on that one. And then I wrote down, clean up and respond to your email. I did that yesterday. I got up to 160 messages in my inbox. I'm down to 90 now. So I organized and did all that. And that just makes me feel better when I don't have that much crap in there. So clean up and organize your email is the one I wrote down for this week to plan your work and work your plan. And then I wrote down, send unsolicited CMAs to homeowners. Unsolicited. Who was I talking to? One of the agents at the top agent event this week was doing that. Oh, it's Jesse Griffin. He loves doing his CMAs on Moxie. And he's got 3 different farms. He works in Longboat Key. He doesn't leave Longboat Key, but he works his farms and he's doing his Moxie CMAs. And that's just so cool. I wrote down, set up my Google My Business, because if you didn't do that, we need to get that done. And you got OTLs that can help you do that. Dive deep into your farm or set one up and commit it to a campaign. Right? These are ideas. This is Monday. If you don't have a plan for your week, I'm giving you some ideas to put into your week. So that's what I want to talk about. Real life real estate. Real estate is a job if you treat it like one. So let's treat it like one this week and be prepared to just capture more business than ever before. Then you and I talked yesterday because I was out of issue because I was out of commission all last week. And guess what? You got the issues.
The business keeps coming no matter what. The challenges will be there, the trials will be there, but so will the wins that we have as well. So we deal with all of them as they come, and you've got a great team behind you to help support you. And so we've got a lot of things going on in a lot of different ways. What would you like to start with?
Well, it's real life real estate. So let's just talk about some issues that went on
Yeah.
that we had to deal with. And I think we all learn from them and understand that shit does happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're a bad agent. It just means stuff happens and we got to deal with it.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I was dealing with is a personal personal sphere of influence buyer for me. They were looking last year and decided not to buy last year, and they out of nowhere come back around and said, I need to move now. This was a couple months, about a month and a half ago, and found them a property and get under contract with the property, and we do an inspection, and inspections find that there is a roof that's 11 and a half years old. Shouldn't be an issue, right? But the property disclosure said the roof was put on in 2016, and they had a 4-point inspection report from 2016 that said the roof was just put on in 2016.
Wow.
They had a 4-point inspection report that did not mention the electric panel was a recalled electric panel. Didn't have that on there as unsatisfactory. There was a couple other little plumbing issues, and that was basically it. And when we went to go through and negotiate those items, we sent off the 4-point that we had from the seller already from 2016, because I said, this will at least get us some quotes because we know that these things are there. We had the inspection done and found out that all of those items were incorrect. So we had disclosure issues there. We're like, okay, now we know what it is. The roof was 2012, which made it an 11 and a half year old roof, almost 12 years old. The electric panel was a recalled electric panel that no insurance would accept except Citizens. We find out that Citizens won't take the policy with a roof that does not have 5 years of life. And since it only had 11 and a half years of age on it, they were calculating a 15-year lifespan of the roof, useful life. So that means it only has 3.5 years left. They would have taken the electric panel if the roof had 5 years, but they wouldn't. And then on top of all of this, we're dealing with a seller who is looking at her report saying, no, my roof's from 2016. And it says on the 4-point roof life expectancy, 25 years when they put it on in 2016. So she's like, my roof has 25 years of life. Why after 11 and a half years do I have to do anything with it? That took about 2 weeks of negotiating. All of the time, we have inspection deadlines, loan approval deadlines, and closing dates that are fast approaching. So we were just made sure we were really diligent with everything going back and forth, extending inspection period deadlines. And then we actually started getting closer to our loan approval deadline as well, because we were negotiating these things for for just about 2 weeks. So we had to extend our loan approval deadline because we did not have an appraisal yet. We did not have satisfactory insurance, and we couldn't get loan approval without having either one of those things done. And it just took a lot of negotiating, and the seller was very, very determined to not do anything for the property. We eventually got them to replace the electric panel. They did one of the service treatments on the roof. It basically, they come out, they spray it with that material, it extends the life. They get a roofer certification that says it has at least 5 years of life so they can get satisfactory insurance. And they agreed to fix any of the other items that were on the list if the buyer was willing to accept the roof with 5 years of life and that treatment and the roofer certification.
So look at the stress that was created, and I'm going to say it, by that listing agent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These are things that I want you guys to address with our sellers up front.
Well, you have a listing agent that he has a disclosure from the seller and a 4-point that says all of these, doesn't call out the recalled electric panel, says the roof was from 2016.
Yeah.
So he's got that information. The permit was from 2012. So if he would have looked the permit up, he would have seen that. But it was a lot of stress the whole time. The buyer is extremely stressed, and the seller even tried to get us to accept a I can't remember what the name of the policy was, but it's basically it's a renter's policy for a landlord. A landlord has a policy that basically is just kind of fire and dwelling coverage. And that's what she was saying. Well, they'll accept it. This company will accept that policy with a roof. They don't care about the life expectancy of the roof. I said, yeah, but it's less coverage. The buyer's going to have to accept less coverage. And then we also have to explain to FHA why this buyer is taking on a landlord policy that's typically for landlords for a primary residence policy, which could create a whole nother red flag and an issue.
100% it does.
So there's just a lot of it took a lot of communication, a lot of phone calls, text messages, follow-ups, addenda. I mean, we were back and forth it was literally 2 weeks of negotiating for a roof, calling roofers, calling insurance, back and forth with different insurance coverage. And the seller was saying, how can the insurance company tell you that even if the roof has 5 years of life, that they may cancel you after a year? So because that's what the carrier is seeing. They're getting people into policies with 5-year life expectancies on a roof, and they're getting dropped the following year. She said, and I can't believe an insurance carrier would say that to them, or the insurance rep would say that to them. I said, that's just their experience. That's what they're seeing. I mean, you're more than welcome to call them. And she did call them, and she basically was very rude and belligerent with them, telling them, you can't tell them that. They don't know that. It was just very difficult dealing with people who don't fully understand what's going on and why they do have to put some money or work into a 12-year-old roof when they had something that said the roof had 25 years of life in 2016.
Yeah. So I have to take it back. I can't blame the listing agent for that because the seller lied for some other reason. And remember also, people buy houses and sell houses. Maybe they were told when they bought the house it was a new roof in 2016, and that's what they're believing. So it's just interesting. I got a happy ending note. Remember, the first real estate was with Kalani. She's online right now. She called me over the weekend. Guess what? Her seller has decided to raise the commission to the cooperating broker. Her seller has decided to replace the roof on the house.
Awesome.
And here's a real life real estate tax. This is a tile roof. She got a really good price, but guess how long it is?
3 months.
3 to 4 months, a backlog to get tile roof. So if you need a tile roof before closing and you get 3 or 4 months of supply, you got to get on it fast. And so they raised the co-op, they lowered the price, and they agreed to put a new roof on. So that's just all that hard work she did up front that the seller was not willing to bend on. After a couple of weeks of no showing and no activity, they saw their house was not as great an asset as they thought it was.
Yeah, one thing I wrote down here was about setting proper expectations. And that's really what she did. She set proper expectations with the seller, discussed with them. So now when you're going to them saying, okay, we've been on the market, we have this many showings, no showings, this many calls, no calls, whatever the case was with the status. And based on this, remember the discussions we had when you said, hey, I want this, 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 and this. And I said, if we do that and we have no showings, no offers, no interest, I need you to understand the reason that's going to happen is not because of me, not because of my company, not because of the marketing. It's going to be the price. It's going to be the roof. It's going to be the fact that we didn't do these things up front. And I'm going to put it into an email, and I want you to acknowledge by saying, yes, I understand, to that email. So at least we have something in writing where you acknowledge that the issue is not going to be me. Let's set the right expectations. The issue is going to be the house and the price.
Yep. And the micro market that you're in.
Yeah.
That particular neighborhood has 3 other waterfront homes on the market that are all in the similar price range, and none of them have sold in like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, and speaking of setting expectations, because I have a personal property that that I bought, and it just came on the market, but the agent that brought me the opportunity is the agent who is listing the home for me, and has done absolutely nothing wrong, has done everything right. But what I put myself in a situation of is I put myself in a situation as a real life seller for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that I'm getting the home ready for the market, and I'm getting it ready for pricing, getting it ready for photos, going through all of these steps, putting a lot of time, effort, energy, money into this property. And the agent is doing everything. I know the steps that are happening, but along the way, I found myself asking questions in my head. Well, what's the agent doing? Even though they're doing nothing wrong, I found myself kind of going, well, what's going, because I know what I would do. And I'm thinking, okay, is that person doing this? Are they doing that? And they were, and they were doing everything right. But you just have to understand the reason I'm saying this is because I know the process. I know what needs to happen, what the next step is, why things are being done, when they're being submitted. Your sellers have none of that information. They have none of that knowledge. And if I was sitting there with random thoughts in my head, like we had showings and it only been an hour and a half since the showing, and a random thought popped into my head. Oh, I wonder if there's any feedback. And I was going to reach out to the agent to see if there was any feedback. And I'm like, why am I doing that? I know they don't get everything in there. And I know it's usually later that day, the next day. And I know he's going to follow up with them. So I know all of that, but I've still found myself leaning towards those questions, even though I know the answers. And the reason I say this is because you have to set the right expectations with your sellers.
Yeah.
You have to clearly discuss with them what's going on. You need to have scheduled follow-up days with them that you know that you reach out to them and they get an update. But also, when I say setting expectations, I like to call it make myself a hero. I say I'm going to do something, even if it's simple or stupid. Hey, today I'm going to finish these forms. I'm going to send them over to you. You'll have them by the end of the day. And by the end of the day, the expectation is that you have them clicked and signed so I can take them and submit them back. I just set all of those little expectations so that they know what's happening next. And because if I'm asking these questions and I know all of the answers and I know they're being done correctly the right way, what is your seller thinking and what are they asking? They're
Yeah.
asking those same questions and they have no idea what the process is. And they may feel like they're being left out in the cold. And guess what? Whenever something comes up, what's the question that they're saying? Well, what's the thing they're saying to themselves? Is it their fault? Is it
Nope.
their home? Is it their price? Is it the other agents? No, the closest person to them, other than the things they can control, which is their home, their photos, their condition, their price, is you. So it's always going to be you and your fault if something is going awry or they don't have the right answer.
And think about your side of the table too. You know, when you're showing another person's listing, do you make a diligent effort to call that listing agent back and give them the feedback?
Yep.
You appreciate it when they get back to you timely, so you can report back to your seller timely because they're dying to find out, right? They packed up the kids, they packed up the dog, they left the house, they're thinking, this is it, this is it, this is it,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
then we were talking to Kim last week, 2 weeks ago, and Kim said, you know, she's had 24 different showings on this one listing. And only 4 of the buyers, and she knew this, only 4 of the buyers actually purchased homes. The other 20 were just looking and haven't bought anything yet. That's important information with a seller to know. Not everybody who looks is necessarily buying today.
Yep.
Natalia said, can I ask why? And you said this, but say it again. Can I
Yeah.
ask
So
why
the
you
reason,
chose not to sell it yourself when you picked another agent?
so I listed it with it. So what I like to do is I like to
Reward.
try to reward the agent who brings opportunity. So an agent had an opportunity for a purchase and he had other people that were making offers. It was prior to going on the market. It was a scenario where it was in the seller expressed that they wanted to sell the property, cash sale, get it done, no contingencies with anything because they needed to buy another home. So the agent that brought that opportunity to me, the seller did compensate them on the sale when I bought it. And then I told him, well, if they're not going to pay you enough, then I'll let you list the property and we'll make up some of that commission on the other side. So it's just a reward just to make sure that I take care of the people who try to bring opportunities and take care of me.
Yep. And somebody else chatted in the Q&A. How do you know when the electrical box is faulty?
So there's a couple different types of electric panels that are known to be issues. So it's a Zinsco is one
And
that
it's
this was a
Sylvania.
Zinsco panel. Challenger is the other. Some of the Challenger panels are. So there's certain ones that are just known. So when you see that, your inspector will know that. They will know which ones have recalls on them and they will put it into their report. They typically know the years and serial numbers from what to what that they can at least address so that you know what they are. So Sylvania, Challenger, and Zinsco are typically the recalled panels. So here's the other scenario here. The seller of this property had an electrician come out and the electrician rewired the aluminum wiring that was in the home but did not change the electric panel and told the seller that the electric panel was fine and that the aluminum wiring was what the issue was, but the electric panel was fine. But the Zinsco panels, the issue was with the breakers inside those panels. The breakers had a similar issue that the aluminum wiring would have. They would not trip, and then they would try to create the arc of the electric, and it could potentially start a fire and overload a circuit and start a fire in the house. So it wasn't the wiring. Yes, aluminum wiring isn't the greatest, but the panel was the issue. So we have a seller who's like, my roofer told me my roof has 25 years. I'm not doing anything. My licensed electrician told me there's nothing wrong with the panel, and he redid all the wire, rewired the entire house, the aluminum wiring, and told me there's nothing wrong with the panel. I'm not doing anything with the panel. And then we had to
It's the
get
insurance company.
multiple, two or three roofers and 2 or 3 electricians to go out to all tell her the same thing. She wouldn't listen to one. We had to have multiples go out and tell her that, which is why everything took 2 weeks to get done of all the negotiations. Some people are just, they need to hear it a million different ways.
Yep. And it becomes more challenging when it's not your customer.
Yep. So there's a lot going on. Another thing to think about if you are leaving town, even if you're not leaving town. So we're dealing with a scenario right now. We have an agent who got sick, ended up in a hospital, and the agent was out of commission for about 3 or 4 days. Would wake up for an hour or two, but still wasn't able to really reply or respond. But is getting better now, but was out of commission basically all last week. And the sellers, we had people in place to communicate with them, but they were just being very difficult. It was a unique scenario where they were just being very difficult. Most of them were fine, but one of them was not. So I would challenge each of you just to communicate with another agent and have someone set up as like a fail safe. If you happen to be incapacitated for any reason or happen to, have a travel, do anything like that, make sure you have someone that'll cover your business, take over your phone calls, knows a little bit about your opportunities and things that are going on. So you have somebody that's sitting in the background, ready, willing, and able to help. We just happen to have an agent again go into the hospital, and she had people set up, but the uniqueness of her scenario, certain pieces of her business were not accessible because no one knew how to take care of them. So we had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get there. So I would just say, just communicate with someone else to make sure that you know someone that can help you out so that it's more of a seamless transition.
And that's why also we have that listing and contract deal sheet, and you're
Mhm.
supposed to put the client's information in there. So in the event that something did happen, we had to reach out to them. If you don't give us their contact info, we're stuck. If something did happen, we had to call your seller. We need their information.
Yeah, and tell the PA since you were able to access your loops. That's right. So
Either you have an assistant or you are the assistant.
yeah.
John, I ran into an issue last week that the inspector would not report a squared double tap due to the square D allows. He showed me proof. None of that matters because it's the insurance company who's the deciding factor. Right?
Correct. No insurance right now. And this is what I called, and we called so many insurance companies. We went to Florida Best Quote, went to like 3 or 4 other ones, ran everything through them. And every single one of them said the same thing. You need 5 years of life. If your 4-point does not say 5 years of life on the roof, we won't do it. And then if you have 5 years of life on your roof or less and anything else, they won't accept any of the other things that they normally would accept or make exceptions for. Unacceptable. So like 5 years of life was the minimum. But how long do most of our roofs last here in Florida? 18 to 22 years when they're maintained right. But at a 15-year-old roof, all of a sudden now you only have 3 years of life. And a 10-year-old roof, basically every insurance company is saying that a roof at 15 years old is when it reaches its end of its reasonable life. And that's when they want to call it pretty much done. So at 10 years old, you really have to start considering putting a new roof on that because you're only going to have 5 years of life left on that from most people's standards.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes an issue and it becomes troublesome, and you're going to run yourself ragged trying to clear it up.
Yeah, but the good news on that front is Governor DeSantis signed some laws into action that are going to make it harder to sue insurance companies. So I think I quoted at sales meeting last week that we're only 6% of the insurance claims, but we're 96% of the insurance lawsuits. So DeSantis put a lawsuit in fact that it's going to stop us from suing insurance companies, which will make our environment more attractive for insurance companies to come back to Florida when they pulled out because of all the crap we were doing. So that's all good. All right, my friend, it is 9:30. This is our kickoff real life real estate for Monday. We got a sales meeting tomorrow. We're gonna get some good information on that. Managers, I'll see you guys at 11 o'clock to plan this week for us. And I'll remind you that we started off this meeting with real estate is a real job if you work it like a real job. You know, when you work it like a real job, you plan your work and you work your plans. We give you lots of ideas to do that. And you're going to find out that as you get more business, you're going to have more challenges.
My statement to everybody is the job that you came from, that you worked at, they told you when to come in, when to go home, when you had lunch, when you had a break, what was expected of you, and what you would be compensated if you did all of those things. That's what makes, if you treat real estate like a real job and you say, when do I start? When do I finish? What's expected of me? And how much will I get paid if I do those things that are expected of me? And you set that schedule in place and you say, this is what I do, when I do it, how I do it. And I would start with the income generating opportunities. If you want to schedule anything this week, schedule the income generating opportunities, your prospecting time. When do you talk to new people? Schedule out at least 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day when you talk to new people. Start with that for this week. Start filling in the other things like appointments and showings and things like that after that. But make sure you have 2 hours a day of income generating opportunity time.
We want to tell the big rock story before we go.
What?
If you had a jar and you had a pile of rocks, you had a pile of pebbles, and you had a pile of sand, and you had a bucket of water. Your job is to put everything in this jar. If you don't put the big rocks in first, you're never going to fill up the bucket. If you start with the little stuff, the pebbles, the water, the sand, there's no room left for the big important items. So your job this week is to find out what the big important items are. Get those in place first. What's the other saying they say? When's the best time to eat a frog? First thing in the morning, because you get it out of the way and you're done with it. So eat the frog first. And that's the income producing activity. So
yep.
That's all I got for today. Lots of attendees this morning, over 90.
Happy Monday.
Like the real life real estate better than the mastermind group. So we'll keep doing this for a while.
Cool. Excellent.
Happy Monday. And Chris, I was able to log in. So my system is back up and running.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thank you for that.